Welcome to another episode of the IP Cafe. This week, Desmond and I are joined by a very special guest, Dr. Jeffrey Hausfeld. We pretty much just call you Dr. H. So, Dr. H, thanks for coming on the show today, and tell us a little bit of kind of how you got to where you are today.
Well, Alec and Desmond, it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you both for inviting me.
Of course.
I'm happy to share with your audience my origin story and how I got to where I am.
I love it.
So originally, I was born and bred in Brooklyn, New York. Went to undergraduate school at the City University of New York, and then went to medical school at Yale University, and did my internship and residency at Yale New Haven Hospital. So I was in New Haven for a very long time.
Yes.
And the good thing about New Haven in the 70s when I was there was that it had a very active knife and gun club, which provided lots of services for young surgeons to get acquainted with the human body.
I love it.
It was an excellent training field for young surgeons to be in.
So do you have a wild story or anything? Maybe just a one-off for us?
Oh, I have a lot of wild stories. So, one of the saddest stories
Oh,
that I
okay.
have as a young surgical
I think
resident
you're sad.
is, and this is why I never let my children or my grandchildren ever ride a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
We had a 15-year-old come in after a motorcycle accident, and he ran off the road and ran into this thicket of bushes off the road, and he was really banged up, had abdominal injuries and head injuries. And when we took him back to the trauma room, we thought that he had a bleed in his stomach. So the chief resident said, "Yeah, go ahead and put a nasogastric tube down, so that we can check his stomach and see if there's any blood." So another intern that was there put a nasogastric tube down, hooked it to the wall suction, and wasn't getting anything, wasn't getting any suction. And we didn't understand why. But after about a minute, the kid became decerebrate, means he went into a posture where it's as if his brain was having either an anoxic episode where it wasn't getting oxygen, or where there was trauma to the brain. It was a clear brain trauma occurring at that moment. So we immediately sent him down for a CT scan, and it turned out that the nasogastric tube, instead of going into his stomach, went into his brain.
Oh my goodness.
Because when he went into this thicket of bushes, one of the branches went into his nose and poked a hole from his nose into his brain, and the tube just took the path of least resistance and went the wrong way. Hence, the reason why my children and grandchildren never ride motorcycles.
That is, I have begged my wife for the past, 2-3 years now. I really want a motorcycle. Yeah, I really want to give it a shot. And every time she is like, absolutely not. Will not happen. Yeah, I have to hit her with that one.
Yep.
Well,
So I did my training there in New Haven, and then came down to Washington, D.C., because my brother and my sister also moved here from New York, and I just followed them and went into practice and joined a group practice here and practiced for about 23 years, doing otolaryngology, facial, plastic, and reconstructive surgery. And then I said, okay, what's next? And I really wasn't sure what next was going to be. But at the time, my oldest son was at Carnegie Mellon. He was a finance major. And he was getting to his last year of school. And he said to me, "Dad, I'd like to get an MBA. I said, "Good, go get an MBA. I'll pay for it." My parents paid for my medical school. Little did I know that it was $60,000 a year for an MBA, not $5,000 a year like my parents paid for me, which was a lot of money back then. But I said, fine, go. So he goes and he looks at the MBA programs, and he comes back and he says, "Dad, I went to these schools and they all want me to go to work first, like work was a bad thing. I said,
How
that's
dare they?
okay. You go to work first, and get a few years, and I'll still pay for it. He said, but look at this program. And he shows me a program from Hopkins, which is an MBA with an emphasis in healthcare. I said, the heck with you. I should do this. And he says, let's do it together.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we applied to this program together. And we got in together. They wouldn't take him without me because he knew nothing about healthcare.
Jeez.
We got in and we went through a 4-year MBA course together at Hopkins
That's awesome.
Wow. And when was that?
in about 2001.
Okay. So that kind of started your whole journey to where you're at now.
Correct. So I did that first. And then he went on to do healthcare finance, working for big companies that were putting together financing packages for elder care communities. So either independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing communities, and he still is doing that for CBRI, and he's doing great, and it's a big business. And eventually, what happened was that he introduced me when I decided, okay, I finished the MBA. I also went back to GW and got another degree in organizational development, just because I wanted to. And after I got that degree, my kid said, Dad, look at how many letters you have after your name. You have too many letters, you got to stop. It's enough. So
Never too many.
So he said, I have this group in the Midwest that builds assisted living facilities, and they're looking for someone to help them not build it for other people, but build it for themselves. So you need somebody to help, consolidate it and get some capital in. So we went to Chicago together, and we met these guys, and I really liked them. And they were doing assisted living, and they were doing some memory care units within the assisted living. And at that point, my father-in-law was suffering from Alzheimer's. And I really did not like the places where he was residing. They just weren't caring and nurturing, and I felt terrible every time we left him there. And I said to these guys, if we can build a better mousetrap and create a memory care environment that really is nurturing for the most vulnerable of patients, I'll help you build them. And they said yes. So we started to do that, and I started to get some investors, and now I have 6 of these facilities in Illinois and Indiana that have been running now for more than a decade and take great care of the patients. And it's very fulfilling that it fulfills my mantra of doing well by doing good. And when I go to these places, the people, the kids of the parents who are there come over and say, hey, Doc, thank you. I feel like Mom is safe. I feel like Dad is being taken care of. So much better than any place they were before. We appreciate it. And that's the payoff.
Right. That's the fulfilling side. Being able to, I would you say your mantra is there?
Doing well by doing good.
Doing well by doing good.
You can do well, but at the same time, don't forget about doing good.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget about everybody else. There's a book that I might embarrass myself here. I haven't read it in a while, but it's called Conscious Capitalism. It's like trying to make, like, if you're going to do something that'll have a benefit for society, and it's not just like pulling everything out and trying to, whatever you can get. And it's more of a, how can I help? How can I continue to move forward? And I think that's one thing that I know, like, Teresa really pushes towards. Teresa's the president of Pathways.
I know Teresa very well.
Yeah. So she pushes that, towards, Alec and I, like, yeah, we're account managers and we sell and do all of that stuff, but she really empowers us. Like, let's make it, mean something. If we're going to do this, try to benefit whoever we're working with, and don't just try to make a quick dollar and get the hell out of there. So
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. So I guess with all of that, I know you did memory care, but how did you end up moving into the life sciences world, the biofacturas, and how did you get to that point?
So what the memory care taught me was that physicians are smart and they can make a good living in their practice. But when it comes time to doing something outside of their practice, to taking a new idea and bringing it to market, they are not quite as brilliant. We're not wired that way. We're wired to take care of people. And there's a meshing of different cultures of science and business that has to occur when you are taking your idea for healthcare to the market. So at that point, my two friends of mine and I started this organization called the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs, SOAP, a non-for-profit organization that's meant as a network of people, of like-minded people, entrepreneurs mostly, who want to learn what are the opportunities and what are the obstacles in bringing my idea from my head or from my napkin to a patient.
Right.
So
Awesome.
we started teaching this to the American Academy of Otolaryngology, ear, nose, and throat doctors. And all of a sudden we had like 300 people come to a 7 o'clock breakfast. And we said, gee, this is something that people want to learn about. So after a while, we took it from within the ENT community and took it to the worldwide community. And now we have 38,000 LinkedIn members across the globe.
Wow.
And we have communities of interest and chapters all over US and some European and now going to Australia and Asia of like-minded people. And these are not all docs. This is anyone in healthcare. So it's doctors, nurses, dentists, physical therapists, and the surrounding personnel, which are scientists, PhDs, postdocs, chemical engineers, electrical engineers, IT people, lawyers, investors. They're all part of this ecosystem because it does take a village to bring any new idea to market. And
Absolutely.
that's what we try to convey and teach and understand. What are the needs of our constituents, and how do we give them the information and the tools to be successful?
Right. And so what are some of the biggest, I guess, pitfalls that some of those people are running into? There's always, like, we hear about this, especially in the life sciences industry, there's this, valley of death that people don't really know about. Like, things are going really well, really well. You get to the point where you're like maybe thinking about submitting an IND, and then it just kind of falls off. And then it's like, well, they either stay down there and die, or they, find their way out. So what are some of the biggest, mistakes or areas, where people can improve when they're thinking about, creating a startup?
So some of the biggest mistakes are that it's not all yours, even though it's your idea. I'd like to tell entrepreneurs 100% of nothing is still nothing. So they have to understand that they have to be able to give up a portion of their idea and their company to other very smart people so that it can move them in the right direction. And if they're unwilling to do that, they stay stagnant and don't really progress.
Absolutely.
Especially those who don't want to give up their day job. There's lots of folks who want to do both, have their day job so they are financially stable and dabble in entrepreneurship.
Right.
I'm very leery about those people only because if you're taking in investor money to have a project, who are you accountable for? Are you accountable to your patients because that's your day job and you have to take care of your patients, or are you accountable to your investors? Right. It's hard to be accountable to both.
Right. At the end, just a quick note, like I love that, bringing in other people to help you. I'm referencing books today. It's amazing. There's another book that I read, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he talks about, the Mastermind Alliance and how Carnegie didn't just come up with any of the ideas or his businesses all by himself. He didn't run his businesses by himself because he couldn't have. It would have been too difficult to do. So he brought in, other people to help him lead his business, and created that, mastermind alliance of people that he could lean on and trust and say, here, go run this side of my business because I don't know how to. And, I'll help if I can, but if I can't, it's yours, and you go run with it. And I think, not just for, the healthcare industry, but across, anything you're doing in life, bringing in other people that are more intelligent than you, not being intimidated by that, but like leaning towards that and, taking in their insights and everything, and really, leaning on them as much as possible. So, I absolutely agree with that, and I love that. So, yeah, Alec, got anything for me? You know, it looked like you had a couple of questions. You were sitting there
I'm
thinking about stuff.
so, as you're talking, Dr. H, I mean, I've perused on your LinkedIn before, but I'm just sitting here perusing through it again, and I didn't realize like I mean, obviously I knew you kind of founded SOAP and all of that. I didn't realize it was that vast of a network. It's just incredible. Um, and I know you're involved with a ton of things because you are nonstop busy. And I want to touch on that a little bit because I'm curious as to what does a kind of typical day look like for you? Because I know you're emailing me sometimes at like 11 o'clock at night or whenever, and you're just nonstop, and I don't know how you do it. But I'm just curious what like a typical day looks like for you.
So, luckily, I'm one of those people that they categorize as a short sleeper.
4 hours, that's it?
So it used to be 4 hours
Okay.
when I was younger. Then it kind of, as I get older, it's gotten now to about 5.5 hours.
That's all right. It's good to slow down.
And it gives me the opportunity to squeeze a lot into a day. So I'm an avid exerciser. I exercise for at least an hour in the morning and an hour at night.
Wow.
And I'm up doing work until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And that really started getting worse when I was conducting the clinical trial for Biofactura's first biosimilar, because I had to do it in Australia during COVID.
Oh no.
So they're 15 hours ahead of us. So I was on Zooms and Teams from 8 p.m. until 1 a.m. making sure the clinical trial was going okay. And I haven't really gotten my internal clock back, so I kind of stayed there. It's okay.
I'm complaining about a 3-hour difference talking to people in California. You're doing better than me.
And now I find myself, with technology, I can talk to people in Taiwan and in India early in the morning. I could talk to people in Europe in the early morning and later morning and early afternoon. And just you fill your day with both people here that are physically here at Biofactura in Frederick and people across the globe that you normally couldn't really get that kind of connectivity before this technology.
Yeah. So I want to get back to that, and I know that's the kind of the road we were headed down, but how'd you get to Biofactura?
So through SOAP.
So, okay.
So I was invited to come. So SOAP got me involved in the startup ecosystem.
Right.
So that was I'm an angel investor in lots of different startups, and I was consulting in lots of different startups, both in medtech, in not in biotech yet, but in medtech and in diagnostics. And because of that, I was invited to hear a pitch event, and I went to a pitch event, and Daryl Sampe, the CEO of Biofactura, was there, and he started giving this pitch about Biofactura and biosimilars. This is 11 or 12 years ago. And I said, biosimilars, great. What's that? 12 years ago, nobody knew what a biosimilar was here, especially surgeons, because surgeons didn't give biologics.
Right.
So I have had a very steep learning curve over the last decade about what it means to do research, development, and manufacturing in the biopharmaceutical world. And the fact that it is so eye-opening to non-medical people is not that it's amazing to think about. We see the end product as physicians, as patients, as nurses. We see what comes in and we use it, but you don't have any clue how it gets there. You don't know how the sausage is made.
Right.
And what you have to learn from the get-go in terms of, you have a cell, and then you transfect the cell with a gene, and you're telling that cell to make a protein of your choice. Sounds like science fiction, But that's how we make biologic drugs. And then you take that and you grow it up and you can optimize the process. And you have all these very fancy machines that can help you do that, to know exactly what pH, what oxygen level, what temperature, how fast the impeller has to run in the bioreactor, and all the analytics that go along with it, and the regulatory mountain that you have to climb in order to get approved to use your drug in people is unbelievable and fantastic that we're able to climb that mountain and to have drugs that are as effective and accessible to patients that we do today. So I'm just in awe of our industry, and I'm fighting for our industry to be able to continue this progress that we've made in the last several decades of bringing new and improved products to patients and making them more accessible.
Absolutely. And you know, I know a little bit about biosimilars. I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to ask you, what is a biosimilar? I know maybe not into extreme detail, but you know, what is a biosimilar?
Okay. So you have two different kinds of drugs. You have small molecule drugs and large molecule drugs. Small molecules are made of chemical compounds. And usually, if you are making a copy of a small molecule drugs, it is called a generic, right? Because it's basically you're taking a chemical compound that is known with certain quantities of the different chemicals, and you're formulating it into a pill or a capsule or a spray, whatever it is, but it's very concise and it's known quantities and known formulations. Biologics are large molecules and usually made by cells. And it can be made by different kinds of cells. It can be made by insect cells, or it can be made by human cells. It can be made by mouse cells or hamster cells. Lots of different cells can make these biologic drugs. But your manufacturing capability is a living thing. Your cell is your producer of your drug. You are genetically manipulating that cell and then producing the microenvironment around the cell for it to optimize the production of the asset that you want to produce.
Wow.
So a biosimilar is a generic or copy of that biologic.
Right.
Making a generic of a small molecule is relatively simple because all the formulations and the amounts and the way they make it is very precise. And it's done with chemistry. Here, you're doing it with biology. And when you do it with biology, there's always going to be variables. And the cells may not like a certain temperature, or the cells may not like a certain amount of glucose, or the cells may not like the bioreactor flask that you put them in. So there are so many different variables that affect the way the cells produce your drug that it can cause differences in that copy from the branded drug, which is what makes making a biosimilar so massively more complicated and expensive than making a generic.
Now, just for like a regular generic, that's when, like, if somebody's making just a generic drug, that's when we see like whatever type of drug you're seeing on TV or whatever goes off. What's it? The patent expires and stuff, and then somebody can now produce that essentially.
Correct.
Whereas for what you guys are working in, you can't just wait till something like that expires. You have to physically
we have to start years before it expires. We have to start like 4 years before it expires so that we can get the process down to the point where the drug that we're producing looks and acts just like the branded drug, down to the molecule, down to the almost to the atom. In that you're taking it and you're measuring the molecular weight and you're putting it in a mass spec, and it has to be within micrograms of what it should be, nanograms. So
Right.
what you're talking about is very precise science, which means a lot of different machines and analytics that look at the physical structure, that look at the biological activity, that look at what we call glycans, which are sugar moieties that hang on to the antibody, and you have to delineate each of those because they each can change the immunogenicity of a drug, or the half-life of a drug, or the potency of a drug. So that's what goes into creating a biosimilar. It's much more complicated than even a novel drug, because you have to make an exact or close to an exact copy of a drug that's out there that's made by another cell.
Oh my goodness.
So,
But
well, so it's so interesting to me because I understand roughly like what the instruments are doing, like how they operate, but how they're used in the process for what you guys are doing, though, like that aspect of it, I don't know, because I guess like we don't get to talk about it too much. So it's like cool for me to hear you like talking about the different components and stuff and how it's used, because I know it from a perspective of how does this machine operate, kind of, not what it's actually doing.
Right. You have to make sure that the purity and the potency is as close as possible to the drug that you're buying from the big pharmaceutical companies. And that means that there's a battery of tests, what we call release tests, for everywhere from the appearance of the drug, you're looking at the color, you're looking at turbidity, down to what's the concentration of the drug in that formulation. All of those things have to be very clearly delineated and then approved by the FDA before you can market your drug.
yeah, there's so much that goes into it, and I want to kind of half pivot, but try to do a segue here. There's you have to be so accurate, and you have to create something it's essentially novel, but not, right? Almost more difficult. So I know there has been some difficulties going on, or not difficulties, but some things going on with Biofactura, and you're trying to pivot the business and move to other areas. So I want to talk a little bit about, Capital Biologics and, what the vision is with that. I've gotten some information that, Alex passed along with me, but I really want to know, as things maybe starting, you're reshaping what Biofactura is doing. Biofactura is doing. What are you doing now to take all of that experience that you've had at Biofactura to transition that into Capital Biologics?
So about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Biofactura was awarded a contract with BARDA, part of HHS, to do the research, development, and manufacture a monoclonal antibody cocktail that was going to be used as a medical countermeasure against a possible bioterrorist threat from smallpox.
Gotcha.
Smallpox has been eradicated as a naturally occurring virus, but there are stockpiles of the smallpox virus that we know of here in the CDC, also in Russia, and maybe in other countries that may not be as friendly to us as we would like.
Right.
So it's always a question as to whether or not those bad actors may use smallpox virus as a bioterrorist threat against us, or as an actual weapon against us, which would be devastating because most of the population is not vaccinated against smallpox. So it would have greater than a 30% mortality if that was released.
Wow.
So we were working on the next generation of therapeutics to be able to have in our stockpile should that problem arise. But unfortunately, the funding was suspended back in April, and we're trying to get the funding back on track with this administration and doing what we can to show them how important it is and how we can be very competitive price-wise with the other molecules that they have, which aren't as effective as ours. And in the meantime, we're saying, okay, we've built this fantastic machine. We have, 45 really smart scientists and technicians that can take a gene sequence on paper and take that and do cell line development and do upstream and downstream process development. In other words, the processes where you grow the cells and produce the drug, and the processes where you take that supernatant and filter out the impurities so you get the pure drug at the end, and then have all of the quality and quality control that is the overarching design to say, here's how you're going to do it, here's how we make sure that it's going to be safe and effective for patients to use, and then have the ability to do GMP manufacturing of the clinical material to be used in clinical trials. We had that as we were going through the smallpox therapeutic R&D journey and manufacturing journey. So we said, okay, we have this. We've made this great, platform. Now, if we're suspended from using it for our own internal project, we'll let others come in and we'll be a CDMO, a contract development and manufacturing organization, to allow other biotechs to utilize our technology in bringing their babies from the initial stages through a IND submission for a clinical trial.
Yeah, from idea all the way to commercialization, and that's I know you guys are a huge part of that, and I think it's great that you guys have been able to find a way to transition and pivot in such a difficult time. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. And we work directly with BFI and yourself, and I know it brings us a lot of joy to help you guys continue to grow and do amazing things. And we want to support, and we wanted to make sure that we at least brought that up and talked about it a little bit, so that we can make it aware that everybody knows, like, hey, there's an organization that exists that was already doing amazing things, doing amazing things. And now, they've pivoted, and now you guys are going to do even better things, and expanding your business. And that doesn't mean, BFI goes away, but it's just an extension of the business. And
it's a new division. Capital Biologics is a new division, and we may spin it off as a new company eventually. And the way that we differentiate ourselves is that we are entrepreneurs at heart.
Right.
We understand what other entrepreneurs go through. We're not the big mega CDMO that's going to take your stuff in and you'll go in a queue, and if we're delayed by 6 months, sorry.
If we get to you.
We know time is money, and we understand the urgency that you bring to the table, and we treat people as if we were treating ourselves and our own assets. So that understanding of the entrepreneurial culture, that flexibility in terms of scheduling, that respect for the customer and valuing the customer, along with the new technology that we can bring in now, because over the course of years, we have been able to advance in terms of cell lines that we use, in terms of continuous manufacturing that we use. So it's called perfusion, intensified perfusion bioprocessing, where instead of putting just in one bioreactor and leaving it there for 12 days, we put it in the bioreactor, but we remove the spent media on a daily basis and replenish it with fresh media, so the cells say, oh, I'm in a new bath. This is great. I can make more product, more drug. And they do. We can get a 5x improvement in the yield by changing to that intensified perfusion method. All those things are advantages for young biotech companies, because they can tell their investors, we're bringing this product to market at lower cost of goods, a smaller footprint for the CDMO, more flexibility in terms of the scheduling, and a rapid advance to an IND inflection point.
Yeah, and that I think that's the huge differentiator. You know, we've worked in this industry now, and I used to work for a CDMO before I joined Info Pathways, and yeah, there was a queue, there was a wait time, and these young organizations that have to go to these larger CDMOs and say, okay, well, can you do this for us, please? And you know, they could say no, but if they say yes, then it's like, well, you know, like I'm not really worried about, you know, XYZ therapeutics down the street. They're not going to pay me that much money. We'll wait on them and then we'll get to them when we get to them. And the differentiator for you guys, like you just said, it can happen almost immediately. You can start diving in immediately, and that helps that organization maybe allocate funds to different areas. They don't have to just like, okay, well, this is what we're going to set aside for our drug development and manufacturing. It can go to, you know, some other area where they may need improvement, like IT. Um,
Right.
but right, so and that's I had to do a little self plug there, just a little.
I get
But
it.
but but yeah, and I think that's you know really amazing, and you know helping these organizations that are young, you know, find their way. Money is not infinite for them. They are often A, B, maybe even still in an angel investment, family office investment, um, you know, mode, and they just can't, you know, really afford that really long, you know, I guess not runway, but that really long time to get things to be able to submit an IND. Um,
Right.
and you know, I think that's really amazing. So, you know, with that, I know that's you know the differentiator, but how did you, I guess, you know, find that? You know, what is your kind of leadership philosophy when it comes to, you know, making sure other organizations succeed, while also making sure your organization succeed as well?
I think that it comes from the years of hard work at getting our biosimilars to the point where we have a commercialization deal with a large Indian pharmaceutical company, and they looked at our product and said, "You guys did a great job in bringing this product through phase 1 clinical trial." We had bioequivalence in a peer-reviewed journal published from the trial that we did. So we have been down this road. We understand what it takes, and we could do very hard things. So, unlike some CDMOs that look and say, if it's not fitting in my box, I'm really not going to want to do it because it takes too much time and effort, and my people don't want to be, you know, diminishing our return. We're saying we'll take the hard things because that's what we do, and that's what we do really well. So we can do monoclonal antibodies, we can do bispecifics, trispecific ADCs, fusion proteins, things that are difficult for other bigger firms to do. That's where our smart scientists shine.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's yeah, great. Alec, you look like you had something to say there a moment ago.
I'm just listening,
Just
taking it all
listening.
in.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Dr. H, I appreciate you just like dropping tons of knowledge on us. You know, we're not biotech people. I mean, you are now, but similar to yourself before diving into this world, you know, we're still learning and trying to figure things out on our own as technology guys. So I guess I want to talk about like future looking. You know, I know right now we want to stay on, you know, focused on the present, but what do you see as trends go? Like, where do you see yourself in Capital Biologics and Biofectura over the next 5 to 10 years?
So there is a big push for onshoring of manufacturing.
Yep.
And that we will try to take advantage of. So we are talking to firms outside the U.S. who want to have a presence in the U.S. to either be a collaborator with them or merge with them, you know, because they're many times much larger firms, but they need to have a physical presence
Right.
in the United States. Or the companies that are here in the U.S. may have a choice, and the choice will be either to go to, you know, India or China or Vietnam and get their research development and manufacturing done there, or have it done here. And there'll be some that don't want to take that risk of having it done in a foreign country if we don't know about tariffs, we don't know about, you know, regulatory approval. So we're trying to take advantage of the moment of, onshoring the manufacturing and R&D, and hopefully that will help grow the CDMO. So we're looking at growing our physical plant and increasing the number of production suites that we have, so that we become a real force in this area.
Right. Absolutely. And you guys,
at the same time, we're also developing some of our own novel drugs.
really? That's exciting.
We're not stopping because we have such smart scientists. We're not stopping the idea of saying we have a great notion here. Let's try it, see if we can make it in our lab, and if we can, see if we can get someone interested in funding further research and development, which Capital Biologics will be able to do for the parent company Biofactura or a separate company Biofactura.
Right. And that's so unique. I think a lot of it just gets a lot of organizations, even though they may have a secondary arm of their organization, they don't have those two different areas to go out and put something out on the market. And I think that's amazing. So I guess kind of halfway wrapping up here, if you could give your younger self, or maybe a younger person that's been in your situation, any sort of advice, what would that advice look like, and what would that be?
If you have visions, go see an eye doctor.
I'll stop saying I have a vision.
So, so many times you hear young companies say, I have a vision of this company. They say, you know what? I don't want to hear about visions. And it doesn't matter what the credentials on your wall are. It really doesn't. If you're smart, and if you're dedicated, and if you're a driving person, but respectful of others and have some degree of emotional intelligence, you can succeed in this.
Absolutely.
If you're going to come in like a bull in a china shop, it's going to be harder for you. So leave your ego at the door. Absolutely. Because when you're in a room with a bunch of really smart people, they can know a lot more than you know. And the idea is to extract the information, extract the strengths of those people, and what we call an executive temperament is one where you make the environment good for bees to make honey.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
I like that.
That was a good one.
It's
right.
Good.
So that's the mindset that you have to have when you're running a company.
Yeah.
Say, I want to make it so that all my bees can make honey. And what do they need to do that? And provide them with those tools, provide them with that environment, provide them with that knowledge base, provide them with the IT that they need to keep everything secure.
My man.
And at least you have a chance at winning. You have a chance at bringing something valuable to the marketplace that will help patients.
Right. And then, to tie it even further back, and, allowing all of those people, giving them the opportunities to succeed, but then also trusting them once they start getting into that process, allowing them to go and do what they need to do, because they are intelligent and they can make things happen, and you've given them every reason to succeed. So, I have one more question, selfishly, because I can't help myself to talk about baseball. You're from Brooklyn.
Yes.
Are you a Mets fan, or are you a Yankees fan? Or do you not watch baseball?
I'll tell you another story.
Oh boy. Okay.
I was 9 years old, and I went to a Mets game at Shea Stadium.
I'm a Mets fan, so.
When I was 9 years old.
Hold on.
And it was an afternoon game, and it was a doubleheader.
Okay.
The second game lasted 28 innings.
Oh my goodness.
It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was bored out of my mind. And since then, I think I've been to one other baseball game.
No baseball.
Because I've been traumatized when I was 9 years old.
Honestly, I don't blame you. I think if even though I played it, I don't think I would have been able to, after that kind of experience, that would have been it for me.
I said, why would anybody torture themselves like this?
I can barely get through 9 innings. I don't know how I'd get through 28. You stayed the whole time. Whole time.
I wouldn't have, but the kid whose father took me said, "We're staying."
Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
goodness.
That's so long you get to the point where it's like I don't really give a crap who wins this game. It just finish the
Exactly.
game.
Exactly. So one thing I would like to tell your audience is, and the question that I get a lot of times is, why do people call me Dr. H? And
I am kind of curious.
Yeah, I don't.
well, it's when you're a physician and you're in your office, they call you Dr. Hausfeld. When I was working in a finance company after I got my MBA, they called me Dr. J. And they kind of made fun of me, saying, "You're too short to be a basketball player."
Dr. J. Okay, I get it now. That went right over my head initially. Sorry.
So, people who are in biotech, who are physicians, many times just go by their first name.
They do.
But I'm okay, and I've accepted that people call me Dr. H, and now I even appreciate when they do, because it always reminds me I'm here for a reason. I'm here to bring something valuable to patients so that it would improve the quality of their lives. And that, if that doesn't stay in the forefront of your mind, you could easily lose yourself in the business of biopharmaceuticals.
Absolutely.
So that's a reason that I'm here. That's a reason why I know you guys are helping biotech companies, and I appreciate the time that we spent and the time that I've had to talk to your audience.
Yeah.
I have
Oh, okay. Go
real
ahead.
quick. This is normally Desmond's thing, but I feel like we got a few real quick rapid fire questions for you, if you don't mind.
Go.
Okay. First one. We got to see you up at Bio this year, 2025. What did you think? It was my first time, so I thought it was a great event, but your thoughts?
I think it was a very good event. I think they had a little less in terms of exhibits than they've had in previous years. But all in all, I was able to see 43 different people from all around the world in person, not in a box like we're doing now.
Yep.
And that's always helpful. So it's one of those opportunities where there's so many people. I mean, when you walk down the halls, it's like being at the United Nations.
It
You
is.
hear so many different languages from all over the world, and it's just great that we have the clout to bring those people from all over the world here to the United States to have this kind of meeting. So
Absolutely.
kudos to them. I'm a big supporter.
Did you have a favorite exhibit or booth?
We did.
I did not have a favorite one, but I heard that some of these booths cost upwards of $500,000.
I'm sure you walked the floor. Saudi Arabia's booth was the most expansive. 2 floors, coffee, screens everywhere. I mean, just
Amazing.
good for them. Good.
Yep.
It was amazing. Cool. Alec?
All right. Next question. I've
Yes.
heard that you're a musician, but we haven't really talked about this before. So is that true?
It is true.
Okay. What do you play?
So at
Do you still play?
First, I'm a singer, and I've been singing since I was a little kid, and both for public events and private events. I even earned money being a singer when I was in college. I used to do folk rock.
So you're a professional singer.
Yeah, in local cafes in Brooklyn and New York. And then graduated to become a fill-in cantor in my synagogue. So that always was very meaningful to me. And I play the guitar, I play the piano, I play the clarinet, I play the bass fiddle, the harmonica, and the flute. None of them expertly, but enough so that I can squeeze out almost any tune because I play by ear mostly.
Oh my goodness.
So we need to cover this, and I'm going to blow your head up a little bit here, Dr. H. You are a doctor. You have an MBA. Great entrepreneurship background. You sit on the board of organizations, and you can play just about
Founded
what sounds to be every instrument known to man. Is there anything you can't do at this point?
Okay, I want you to ask the same question to my wife. because we're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary next
That's
week,
phenomenal.
and she'll give you a different list.
I hear you. I think mine might say the same thing to me. And I'm not as accomplished, so we'll see. Maybe in a few years, we'll see what happens. No doctor though. I had too much school for that. But
Your greatest accomplishments are those lives that you've been able to touch while you've been here, and I've been able to help many people as a physician, as a mentor, as a dad, as a grandfather, as a sibling, as a husband. So I'm blessed and grateful for each day that I get up and able to do that.
That's awesome. And I think, Alec, maybe we finish on that one.
Yeah,
That was
I
might
don't know how we
cry.
can top
No,
that.
but that's
like
Dr. H, I'm really, grateful for your time, and I know Alec is, and all of our listeners. I know they'll be diving in, and there's a lot to learn, and we hope that everybody enjoyed the conversation today. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation, and we appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you both very much.
Yep. Thank you,
Enjoyed
Dr.
meeting you, and I look forward to seeing you in person.
Sounds good.
All
I'll be
right.
up there sometime. Well,
All right.
I'll get lunch. So.
All right. Sounds good. Take care, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.